The title co-redemptrix continues to be a stumbling block for many people. What does it mean, and where do we see this in Scripture, especially at the climax of Our Lady's role with Jesus in the redemption? Welcome to MaryCast. This is Dr. Mark Miravalli, Professor of Theology and Mariology at the Franciscan University of Steubenville. And we're talking about the three titles that are presently being proposed for the fifth Marian dogma. Mary as spiritual mother in her three different manifestations, or her three different functions as co-redemptrix, mediatrix, and advocate. We've been speaking about her role as co-redemptrix, and when we go to Calvary, when we go to John 19:25 through 27, and we examine the scriptural account of the redemption of the human family, we see that there at the foot of the cross is Mary. What's taking place between Jesus and Mary while Jesus is being crucified? Well, both Scripture and the Church give us profound answers to that question. One thing is certain, that Mary is participating. Mary is, quote, with Jesus at Calvary, with a union of heart and an understanding of the mission of what they're doing like no other creature. And remember, that's what the title co-redemptrix means. The title co-redemptrix means a woman with the Redeemer. And Mary is that woman with the Redeemer in ways incomparable with any other woman and with any other creature. So we're trying to break down the title. We're also trying to justify and explain why it's a title uniquely for Mary. At Calvary, Mary is there with her son. And, even from the scriptural account, it's very clear that any mother that's going to see her son so destroyed, so annihilated, so tortured, so unspeakably abused, is going to have a suffering in her heart beyond the suffering of anyone else there. That's part of the vulnerability of motherly love. So that's not a rocket science concept. That's a pretty straightforward understanding that all of us can relate to. Who's going to suffer more through the torturous execution of Jesus than Jesus' mother? Now, that's what comes forward from Scripture, and also the fact that Jesus gives this mother to John. And Jesus gives John to Mary. And what's going on there? Well, remember, in Jewish custom, that can't happen unless there's no other relatives of Jesus. There's no brothers and sisters. Otherwise, of course, if there was a brother or sister, Jewish custom and law would entrust the mother of Jesus to one of the other, quote, brothers or sisters of Jesus. But there are no other brothers and sisters of Jesus. And so what we have at Calvary is a spiritual giving of Jesus' mother to John, who represents all humanity, who represents all beloved disciples. I mean, that's the process of what's taking place in the midst of this universal redemption. And remember, Calvary is a universal event. Calvary is not just an event that deals with one historical period. Calvary is by its nature universal. So that's what's taking place. John is given by Jesus the gift of Jesus' mother to be John's mother, to be the mother of every beloved disciple. Mary, at the same time, still has her heart union with Jesus. So we're going back to, again, this title co-redemptrix, a woman uniquely sharing in the mission of the Redeemer, a woman with the Redeemer. This is how the Second Vatican Council describes it, that Mary had an inseparable union of heart with Jesus, that in her heart she suffered what Jesus suffered in his heart. John Paul II called it the alliance of the two hearts. And indeed, John Paul II would go on to say that Mary was spiritually crucified as Jesus was physically crucified. Some of the great medieval authors, like St. Bernard of Clairvaux or his student Arnold of Chartres, would say that what Jesus experienced in his hands and side, Mary experienced in her heart. What Jesus was offering on the altar of the cross, Mary was offering in perfect obedience to the Father in the altar of her Immaculate Heart. So what does all that mean? That means that at Calvary, no one is participating in the suffering act of redemption that Jesus Christ is doing to save the world like Mary. And quite frankly, my friends, that's the heart of this doctrine. If you wanted to put it in the most simple terms possible, you would say Mary helped Jesus save souls. That's what co-redemptrix means. That Mary helped Jesus save souls. And Mary helped Jesus like no other creature. Now you want to ever avoid any type of extreme of saying that Jesus needed Mary. Jesus didn't need Mary, but it was God's will that Mary would help Jesus save souls. And you also want to talk about how it looks from God the Father. For God the Father, He's given them this mission. And He's given Jesus the mission of saving the world, and He's given Mary the mission of being the new Eve. The woman that would be a partner with Jesus, that would not accept the temptations of Satan, that would not reject the truth of God and the laws of God, but that would be a perfect partner with Jesus in saving souls. And that's why Mary was immaculately conceived. That's why Mary was conceived without stain of sin, without original sin, so that she could accompany Jesus in this mission of redemption. And again, in a popular way, Mel Gibson's Passion, which of course is famous throughout the world, the Passion of the Christ, does well to depict this, that Mary is, quote, with Jesus. Mary's the co-redemptrix in a way like no other person, no other apostle. Not even the angels, in the real sense, participate in the act of redemption like Mary does, giving Jesus His body, suffering with Jesus along the Passion. So this is what co-redemptrix means: unique participation of Mary in the work of salvation. And this is something clearly revealed in Scripture. If you're going to be an advocate to this, or I should say a devil's advocate, I hate that expression, but I'd rather be Our Lady's advocate. But if I was going to be a devil's advocate, you'd say, well, how in Scripture is this clear? And you would then respond, who else? Who else would you pose was closer, was more united, was more clear in the mission, gave more to Jesus' mission of salvation than Mary? And the answer is no one else. You can't find someone else who had that same clarity of mission and that same role of mission. So Mary is uniquely with Jesus in this mission. That is simply what the title co-redemptrix is. Now, some would say, well, why use a Latin title? My friends, in every area of expertise, in every area of science, in every area of history, in every area of formal study, you have to have terminology that very accurately identifies what the elements of that science are. That's also true for theology. Theology requires precision. And there's no single word that better portrays Mary's role with Jesus in the work of redemption like co-redemptrix. That's why popes use it, saints use it, mystics use it. Recently a cardinal at the Vatican used it. That's why we should not be afraid to use it. And that's why I believe we should also seek the solemn definition of this so the term can be explained in the greatest possible precision by the greatest authority that we have on earth. That would be the Vicar of Christ on earth. Co-redemptrix with Jesus in the mission of redemption. Thanks. God bless you.